Did you say streaming or screaming?
Screaming, yeah. Ah! So welcome, I'm Eric Mortimer, the host of the High Performance Living Show. It's all about helping entrepreneurs live on purpose, grow your business, and build relationships without sacrificing wealth or freedom. And have a very special co-host today, Jenn Mortimer, who is obvious of relation. She's my wife, but also founder of Genuine Health. Jenn, what's your scoop for people that don't know?
Well, I help people become happier, healthier versions of themselves and feel empowered around food and health without sacrificing fun or freedom, which a lot of people kind of feel like they have to do when they go the healthy route.
Fantastic. So our guest today is an amazing man. I met over 15 years ago at an entrepreneurial training we both did with Keith Cunningham. Some of you might know who he is. If you don't, you may want to look him up. I was really fascinated with Udo at that time and his story, which I'm sure we'll get into. But it's just been amazing to see his continuous growth over the years since then as well. So,
or maybe regress.
Regressing, yeah. Sometimes it comes up in one area and down in another. It's not, growth is not.
Yeah, it's a dance. It's a dance.
Do you want me to read a brief bio of yourself, or do you want to introduce yourself?
No, go ahead.
So, Udo Erasmus is a pioneer of the health and wellness industry, having created FLAX Oil and Healthy Fats movement. He is also the co-founder of UDO'S CHOICE supplement brand, a global leader in cutting-edge health products, having sold tens of millions of bottles of healthy oils, probiotics, digestive enzymes. Udo is an accomplished author, including Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, that has sold over 250,000 copies worldwide. Udo has extensive education in biochemistry and biology, a master's degree in counseling, psychology from Adler University, and has impacted over 5 million lives by passionately conducting 5,000 live presentations, 3,000 media interviews, 1,500 staff trainings, and traveled to 40 plus countries with his message on how to achieve perfect health. Welcome, Udo.
I did all that. I did all that.
All that and more, I'm sure. Like the old McDonald's, they used to tick the things over and over again and keep track. And are you updating them at all, or you gave up a couple of years ago on the counting?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. All right.
So I know a bit of your background and how you got started, and it's pretty cool. But I think there might be some people that don't know your backstory. I'd like to get into that because I think it's important. Sometimes necessity is the mother of invention, and you're a poster boy for that.
Oh, I've never heard that said that way. Yeah. Well, you want the short story, the long story. The short story is about pesticide poisoning, and trying to figure out how to heal myself because the medical profession doesn't have anything for pesticide poisoning. And that was sort of my eye opener, because I was never like a real junk food person. We ate pretty simply. I lived on a farm when I was a kid, and but I didn't really pay a lot of attention to it either. And I was very careless in my spraying of pesticides. I did it for 3 years. And when I got poisoned, I went to the doctor and said, "What do you have for pesticide poisoning?" And she just said nothing. That was the end of the consultation. And at that point, I mean, really the penny dropped. I could feel it dropping in my body on the floor.
Yeah.
That makes any sense. And I said, wow, my health really is my responsibility. And if I don't care about it, then maybe nobody does. Because the doctor gets paid even if I die.
Yeah.
And so there was very, very sobering, very clear thinking that happened that day. And so then, because I had the background, I tried to figure out how to heal myself. And the idea is, you know, that I knew a few things from biology. 98% of the atoms in your body today will have been removed and replaced if we meet a year from now.
In a year, did you say?
98 in a year, 98% in a year. That means almost your entire body is turned over in a year.
Mm-hmm.
That means your body is a major ongoing construction site.
Wow. I used to hear 7 years, so it's actually faster.
Well, 100% in 7 years. Some things turn over slower than others. In fact, your digestive tract lining turns over every 4 days.
Right.
So it turns over almost 100 times in a year. Right. So much
goes good
on.
News and I was going to say, and that's good news and bad news, because you can damage quicker as well, right?
Yeah, but if it didn't turn over, then it would be worse.
Yeah, right? Yeah, true enough.
Oh, and so the point of that is your body's a major construction site all the time, under construction, done so well that you don't even notice. Mm-hmm. But that's why healing is possible.
Yeah,
because if I've done something to make my body not work, and I raise my standard for intake of food, water, and air, and I keep that standard raised for a year, I will have rebuilt 98% of my body to a higher standard.
That's
wow.
It gives hope too. Is age a factor at all in that? Does it slow down, or is it continuous? Or
well, only when life and body part company does it become no longer possible.
Okay.
Right? But as long as you're alive, your body's turning over. I mean, the body of 80-year-olds turn over every year too, 98%.
Okay.
So that doesn't change. I mean, okay, maybe it's 77%. Maybe it slows down and it's only 77%.
Right.
Or 97% or something, right? So I don't think anybody's done a measurement comparing all the different age groups.
Sure.
But the turnover is massive. Mm-hmm. And of course, one of the ways we know that the turnover is massive and ongoing is we eat. You wouldn't have to eat if your body never turned over. What would be the point of eating if your body never turned over?
Yeah.
Right? So that you could say, well, that wouldn't it be nice if when we were grown, we would never have to eat again? Yeah, but you'd also never heal again.
Yeah.
Right? So if you cut yourself, that would be the end of you.
Yeah.
Right? Because, and you know, like when you cut yourself and you get hurt, you hurt yourself, and injuries, you know, they heal. How do they heal? I don't know. I just keep eating.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And life does everything else.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I got thinking, and I was in the journals reading on health and nutrition, disease and nutrition. I wasn't thinking so much about water and air way back then. It was 1980. But food was, you know, we thought, I mean, at university, we always treated water like it was an inert liquid in which all the other interesting stuff happens. And water is super important. Yeah. Because it's involved in almost every chemical reaction in the body. And it transmits, it runs through tubes in the connective tissue and transmits currents and information throughout the body super fast, way faster than hormones and nerves can do. But I wasn't thinking about that at that time. So I got into all nutrients, and I was looking at everything: minerals, vitamins, amino acids, fatty acids, essential nutrients, which are nutrients that the body can't be made in the body because we don't have the genes to make them. So they have to come in from outside. That's really the cornerstone of why nutrition is important, because if you gotta bring in what the body can't make so that life can use it to make a body that works. And so I was looking at all of that, and I got stuck on fats because fats are the most sensitive of all of our essential nutrients, damaged by light, oxygen, and heat pretty rapidly, need the most care, and we give them the least care. We throw them in the frying pan. We don't do that with any other, you know, and then they get damaged.
Yeah.
And more damage is done to oils than any other group of nutrients. both by industry when they make them and by frying when we fry them.
Yeah.
And more, so no more damaged molecules come from them, and more health problems come from damaged oils than any other part of nutrition.
So it's not just that they don't have much goodness left; they're actually doing harm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and the way that works is, look, you have an architecture in your body. You know, it's like beams and nails, right? That keep your body together. They're obviously not beams and nails, but the equivalent of, right? You have an architecture, and it requires very specific molecules to build that architecture properly. Well, if you then throw in things that are not part of the building plan, like unnatural molecules that never existed in nature, they will occupy a space somewhere in the body. And in that space, they won't do the job, and they'll interfere with the job that's supposed to be going on there. And that's how you begin to break down the body. And the breakdown doesn't happen on the level of awareness or the level of life energy or the level of electrons or the level of atoms or the level of molecules. The breakdown begins at the level of interactions between molecules. And when you get the wrong molecules interacting together, then you're going to get results that are not conducive to a healthy functioning body.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so I got stuck on fats because then the other thing happened is the year after I got poisoned, I found out, and researchers established, that omega-3s are essential nutrients. They knew it about omega-6s in 1929. They didn't find that out about omega-3s until 1981, the year after I got poisoned. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
For me being stupid, and then being in the right place, right? And so, and then I found out that most people don't get enough omega-3 for optimum health. Every cell needs them. And we figured out, we heard numbers like 99% of the population doesn't get enough. That's probably accurate. Some people said 99.9%. But what happened to me was, I said, okay, first of all, I can't get healthy on oils the way they're damaged. That was clear. We should make oils with health in mind. And so I was working on how to protect oils while they're being made from light, oxygen, and heat. And then the second thing was omega-3s are essential. You can't make them, you got to have them. They got to be brought in from outside. If you don't get enough, your health goes down. If you don't get enough long enough, you die. And if you bring them back before you die, then all the problems that come from not getting enough are reversed, because life knows what to do with them, provided I take responsibility here in my mouth to make sure enough of them land in my body so that life has the building blocks it needs to do that job. And so I got really excited. I said, oh my God, if we could make omega-3. Oh, the other thing was omega-3s are 5 times more sensitive to damage than omega-6s. So they're like a nightmare to work with. You can't store them under your bed. You have to make them with care, and you have to store them with care, and you ship them with care. If they go for if they're in transit for more than 2 weeks, we refrigerate the oils. Like when they go to Asia and Europe from North America, West Coast.
Yep.
Yeah, we ship them refrigerated, and nobody does that with oils. They do it with steaks and they do it with ice cream.
Yeah.
But for some reason, they've never wanted to do that with the most sensitive nutrients that need it the most.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got so excited. Oh my God, we could help so many people if we could make omega-3s with health in mind, and get optimum amounts back into the diets of people. We could help pretty much everybody. I got so excited. I just lit up like a firecracker. It was like, I found a purpose for my life. This is worth doing. And literally, I have no business background. All my background was biological sciences and sciences. And I took a year of medicine, left because it's about disease management, and I wanted to know about health. And the dean told us they didn't know what health was. They were working on it, and they're not even working on it, because you learn health by studying healthy creatures in natural environments. You don't learn health by studying sick creatures living completely out of line with nature.
Yeah.
Right. So I went back into biochemistry and genetics. And so that my background in health is really from biology, from science and from biology.
Right.
So I only lasted 1 year in medicine.
I was going to say, you brought up a couple of really good points there. One is like a lot of people don't realize or don't even know the proper storage of their oils.
Yeah.
Especially like you said, omega-3s need to be in the fridge. And the other thing that sat in my mind from when I was in school was the ratio. You know, we get far too many bad omega-6s, and not enough omega-3s. And so the balance gets thrown off as to what you were saying. And you can have the omega-3s, but like you said, if you're ingesting all of these other oils, it's taking up the spot where that needs to be. And so our health is a very interdependent system. Yeah.
You just said something that I want to take a small exception to. Oh yeah, omega-6s are not bad. Omega-6s are as essential as omega-3s.
Yes.
But we need them in the right ratio because they compete in the body.
Yes.
And we need omega-6s also made with health in mind, because they're not made with health in mind.
Exactly. Yes.
A tablespoon of an oil that is 1% damaged, which is about the damage that's done by the processing, by the industry before you throw them in the frying pan.
Yes.
About 1% damage. And if the oil is 1% damaged in 1 tablespoon, you will get 60 quintillion damaged molecules, which is more than 1 million damaged molecules for every cell in your body. And you think that's not going to have an effect on your body? It's like,
and it does, and it breaks down the wrong way. And I think that's the thing, the volatility, like you said, of omega-6s. If it's not handled correctly, it actually can damage, like you said, damage your body in a myriad of ways.
Yeah. So what we eventually did is we started with flaxseed oil, which is actually poorly balanced. It's the only oil that has too little omega-6. All the other ones have more than enough. And I became omega-6 deficient on flax oil. I got dry eyes, skipped heartbeats, arthritis like pain in my finger joints, and thin papery skin. And I fixed it by eating sunflower seeds, which only have omega-6s but no omega-3s. And when that got reversed, I said, okay, we need to make a blend where everything is balanced properly. So we made a blend where there's omega-6s made with health in mind. So we want people off of the omega-6s that are damaged. So omega-6s made with health in mind, and the missing omega-3s. We emphasize the omega-3s because they're too low in almost everybody's diet, but we have enough omega-6 not to become omega-6 deficient. And both health in mind. Yeah.
I was going to say, speak to the omega-9, because you have this 369 blend, which is optimal.
Yeah, omega-9 is not essential. This is a marketing thing. Everybody started, like we used to call it the omega-3-6 blend. And I was in Ogden, Utah, giving a talk, and somebody came up to me after and I said, I used to use your oil, but I now use a different oil because it has omega-3, 6, and 9 in it. And so he thought that was better, right? We had omega-9s in the blend too. But we just never put it on the label because only omega-3 and 6 are essential. So there's a hole in the roof where my head went through. He told me that. And that was the inspiration for everybody started calling them 369 oils. But 9 is present in all oils. It is not essential because your body can make it out of sugar and starch.
Right.
That's a great lesson to tie it back to the entrepreneur too, because we have to help people. We need to be able to do right marketing and all of that too, right? Well, the market, you know what? I have never taken a marketing course. I think, and this goes to purpose that we were going to talk about. Yeah.
When I'm on purpose, I'm a marketing machine. And not because I'm sitting down and saying, let me see, how can I get people to buy this stuff? No, it's because I'm so enthusiastic that people want what I've got.
Sure. Yeah.
Even if I'm on drugs, they'd want the drugs, right?
Yeah.
But when you find your purpose, it fits you. And so you're not acting.
Mm-hmm.
You're bringing it to expression, but it's natural and it's automatic because you're actually on something that fits you, right? And in a sense, the first thing I think is you got to be present in your own space. That's the hardest thing, because to do that you have to sit down and get quiet and just be, and just feel what it feels like to be alive. You know, and bring your awareness that's always wandering around in the world or in your head, bring it deeper inside and explore the space your body occupies. But explore it on the energy level, not on the physical level. I'm not talking about massaging your liver or anything. I'm talking about, what does it feel like? Like if you close your eyes and close your ears and just sit still. What's that like? And it takes some time to get there because we go out all the time. So we're really good at it. And it's automatic because anything moves out there, our awareness is attracted to it. There's nothing jumping around inside saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. So going in has to be deliberate. So then you have to learn how to do that. And then you practice until you're as good at going in as you have become going out. And then you have a balanced life. So that's the first thing. Because if you're not present in your own space, who is? Right?
Yeah. There's enough people trying to get our focus and attention and distraction.
Of course. Of course. And if you're not deliberately doing that internalization, then you're always going to be subject to somebody else, you know, building your agenda for you. Right? There's always somebody who wants something out there, you know, and if you're not like, if you don't have a purpose, then you're going to be always fulfilling somebody else's purpose. But every human being has a purpose, their own purpose.
So you had that moment in the doctor's office where you got your purpose, and there's people that are watching that are, we have a lot of entrepreneurs and some real estate agents and all of that, and they're wondering what their purpose is. What are some signs, some symptoms that what it is?
Well, if you're looking for purpose, that's not your purpose. Well, actually, looking for your purpose is your purpose until you find your purpose.
Until you have it,
then it's not your purpose anymore, right? In a way, I mean, it's really. How do you do it? Nothing much worked well in my life until I discovered an ache in my heart, in my chest. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Yes.
If I say it that way, okay, because whether you call that feeling blue or lonely or having longing or yearning or striving or sadness, sorrow, loss, but something is missing, you know, and then things trigger it. Maybe a friend dies, or grandmother checks out, or so you make an agreement with somebody and you feel like they betrayed the agreement, and somehow when you pay attention to it, like when it hits you, it always goes here, right? And that is we think it's about the things that triggered it, but it's not. This is actually our default condition of disconnection from ourselves and the discontent that comes from it. And then things in the world trigger it because we got disconnected from ourselves really early on. And that's part of the human journey. You know, in the womb, there's nowhere to go, nothing to do. Everything's taken care of and it's safe. And in there, we're just floating around. I call it the Buddha tank because it sounds so nice, right? Floating around in the light. You may not remember it, and most people don't. And everything's okay. And our awareness is at rest in its source, inside, in life. So we're actually present in our own space, right? So being there for 9 months. So this is not, when you experience it later, it's not a new experience. We've been there before. We come from there.
Coming home.
Then we come into the world.
And then
and
we
now,
start our head.
well, what happens is our awareness goes outside, because now you got to cry for your dinner, and you got to cry, I mean, for your breast milk, you got to cry for your diaper change, you got to cry for get a blanket to get warm. You don't have language, so all you can do is cry for it. Right? And then mom has to guess, but then she starts to teach you words and use words, and what do you need, and you know, and you have to get to know the world. So your awareness gets externalized through your senses, drawn out into the world by change, because you have to monitor change. Is this friend, is this foe, or is this irrelevant? And on the basis of your assessment, which has to be pretty quick because your survival depends on it, you then take action that is appropriate to your assessment of the situation. And so you get drawn out into the world, and pretty soon after you're born, your awareness is not inside in its source in life, but it's now plastered all over the world of surfaces of things, right? And that's a natural process, and it's automatic by change. That's why, you know, television is so addictive, and that's why entertainment is so addictive, you know, because things are changing, and so yeah, like it draws you out, right? What draws you in? Nothing, except when your heart aches, because a heart ache is your heart calling your attention to come back home inside to its source in life. And the heartache is the symptom of your disconnection from yourself. But it's triggered by all kinds of different things, because we forget that. And then we try to fulfill ourselves on the outside. When fulfillment, you know, fulfillment, even the word, you can't be fulfilled on the outside. Filled full means inside, right? Yeah. Right? So you were trying to find our fulfillment on the outside, when what we need is, we need to come home to the fulfillment that has always lived inside of us. But when our focus is elsewhere, then we're not going to experience it. So that's the first thing. When you learn how to do that, and that's, in my view, that's purpose one for human beings. When you get reconnected to yourself, your purpose is there waiting for you. Because now it's not a matter of, and why is that? Because until you feel taken care of, you will always just do things that you think will take care of you. There will always be an element of that in everything you do. I know it's true for me. I wouldn't do things that needed to be done because I couldn't see how they would take care of me. So I was limited in what I could do. But the best purpose externally is to do what most needs to be done. That's where you're going to be, where it's going to be your biggest market. But you can't get there if you don't feel whole yourself.
Sure. So it starts within, and then you can.
Yeah, and so now, like, okay, when I started doing my practice and going inside, I started, you know, very soon, very quickly. It's like, okay, I'm good. I'm taken care of. I'm cared for. I feel good. It's not about me anymore. Then it was like, okay, what needs to be done around here? And I was like, wow, that was like, okay, what needs to be done around here? And you can literally take on the biggest thing that needs to be done on the planet and be able to make your contribution to it. And the bigger the market is for what isn't getting done, the better is going to be your income too. Right? Because the bigger problems you solve, or the more problems you solve for more people, but you can't solve them if you can't see them. And you can't see them if you haven't solved your own problem. And your own problem is you, right? Not being present in your own space. Okay, and then it changed. It literally changed. It's like, okay, then the change was, instead of saying, well, what can I do that'll, and I always had anxiety around it. You know, what is it that I can do that'll get me taken care of? And I tried a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, I'd tried normal stuff and that didn't take care of me. And then I started doing crazy stuff, right? I mean, it's got to be somewhere. And the drive is so powerful. It's the biggest drive we have. Mm-hmm. We're discontent. The biggest drive is to find a way to get content. And we do it in all the wrong ways because we don't teach this kind of human nature stuff in our culture. Mm-hmm. So then when I started feeling cared for, it was like, okay, what's the biggest splash I can make for good in one lifetime, in one body? And thinking big is no more difficult than thinking small.
Right.
Right? So why not think big? But you can't do it if you don't feel cared for. Right? Mm-hmm. So purpose one is getting back to feeling cared for, coming home to yourself. And after that, you just look around. You look around what needs to be done. You have affinity for certain things. You have interest in certain things. You have talent for certain things. You have experience in certain things. And then you can basically just say, okay, here's my talents, and here are the problems. Pick one. Mm-hmm. Pick one, right?
It was like that where the Vesica Pisces meets the Venn diagram, where what your passion is, what you're good at.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't
come together.
But for me, when I read, so I had already been doing my homework.
Sure.
When I got poisoned by pesticides, right? And then when I was reading, it was obvious. I want to do the thing that is most neglected. What's the most neglected? Oils are most neglected. Omega-3s are completely neglected. Happens to be, I got poisoned at just the right time to get at the head of that parade.
No coincidence. I always talk about God or the universe or whatever sends us these messages. So you had the breadcrumbs to go in that way.
Yeah.
So starts with a feather, then a pebble, then drops a refrigerator on your head, so you'll pay attention.
Yeah, and then after that it's tandem truck, right?
So that you went deeper on the path.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then what happened out of that is I started working with oils, and once I got that done, and it was just a matter of expanding it. Mm-hmm. So, mm-hmm. But then it was like, okay, well, what else? Where else can I help? Next one is digestion.
Yes.
Right.
That got me into enzymes, probiotics, and fiber. Right? Because those three they actually do most of their work outside the body. Mm-hmm. But they're extremely important. So they're not essential nutrients, but they're essential for health. Yeah. So that was the second thing I took on. And then I noticed when I was giving talks that there were people who knew more than I did, but they weren't putting anything into practice, and they weren't getting better. And they had copious notes, and they had stacks of books. And I mean, some of them, I could have been their student. I was teaching them, but I could have been their student.
Sure.
And I started thinking, why is it? And of course, I didn't apply it to myself right away, but I just saw it out there. And I said, why is it that people have so much good information and they put so little of it into practice? And of course, I had to look at myself too in that process. And why is it that we don't? And my conclusion was that if we're not inspired, everything's too much work. Mm-hmm. Now, how do you get inspired? That goes back to here. That goes back to this, right? So, but then also in terms of my teaching, I realized accurate information is really important, because if you don't have accurate information, you can't make good decisions. I think lying is a form of dictatorship because it takes away your choice, yes. Right? Whether you're lying or somebody else is lying. But you're involved in something that takes away people's choice and robs them of their freedom to choose. And so the information needs to be accurate. In order for people to make good decisions, good changes, information has to be accurate. But as important as accurate information is that they get inspired, that the information is delivered in a way that gets them high, that gets them off, that gets them feeling good about being alive.
Mm-hmm.
Because inspiration frees energy. And when you have energy, then making changes, which usually is really hard, becomes a lot easier. Mm-hmm. And then if you make a change and then you see results from having made the change, then you're pretty much hooked. Yeah. You know, once you see the oil works and you get benefits, you start being open to all kinds of other things that are possible. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's really nice. Yeah. And so I call inspiration nutrient one. Right?
That's awesome.
Nutrient one, yeah. Right. And you know, from watching people, when people are not inspired, they're heading towards depression.
Yeah.
And when you're just like, when you're blah, you're not going to make any changes. You're just going to do what you've always done before because you have habit patterns, right? Yeah. And if you get depressed enough, then you'll destroy your own body.
Yeah, that's where stuff comes in.
So energy is super important. Like mm-hmm. to be energized, to feel energized.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And you can do that. Mm-hmm. I was just going to say, and that's too, the brain and the body are so important to the nutrients. You were talking about high performance. And so the oils and the digestion is so important. It's like the gut is your body's second brain. So really important to take care of that.
Yeah. Yep. Well, you know what? You don't even need the brain at all. There's jellyfish that are like at least 250 million years old. Yeah. They don't have a brain at all, but they have a really well-developed digestive system.
Yeah.
Right? So that's just to remind people, when you get too high on the magnificence of your brain, just remember we're using that brain to destroy everything.
Some of us hope to. So I think we ourselves every year, and we can survive without a brain. So
yeah, there you go. Yeah, this is really important information, right?
Yeah.
No, I think what we need to do though is we need something governing our brain and behavior, and whether you call that the heart or you call it the gut, mm-hmm. those two are better rulers than the brain is. Yeah. When the brain loses its master, mm-hmm. it becomes a dangerous mm-hmm. piece of equipment, right? It's,
I believe that's the principle for heart math. That heart math is based on.
Yeah. Well, I would say the teachings of all of the masters were based on that. Yeah. And the sentence that life is unconditional love for your body. The nature of life is the energy is unconditional love. Mm-hmm. And its central message to the body is, I am come not to judge, but to love. Yeah. That's pretty clean. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. So, and then, you know, as I went on, then I say, well, what else affects health? You know, it's like, where else can I help? Because I'm big on helping. I came out of a war, so I got my nose rubbed into how bad things get when you don't cultivate peace and harmony and cooperation when you can. Then you're always going to be heading towards war. And you can see the world heading in that direction these days, too. Because we're not doing our homework, and the homework is to come home to ourselves. Because there you know, it's like, I wouldn't kill Republicans or Democrats just because they have different stupid ideas in their head. They're also human beings, right? Mm-hmm. But that gets forgotten. And there's these human beings, and they're obviously human beings, and they've completely forgotten that they have almost everything in common and almost nothing separates them. And they care about their kids, and they care about their food, and they care about their health and all of that, you know, but they will not help each other. It's like, what the hell is that? Right. And by the way, I'm not just picking on the US, because it's everywhere. It's the same politics.
That's a powerful question, though, that can help people lead to their purpose too. How else can I help? So many people ask the question, why am I such an idiot? Or why did I do that? An answer will come, but asking every morning or every day, how else can I help?
Yeah,
it can come.
Yeah, and so then I was, because I was on a health track, I thought, well, you know what? actually everything affects health.
Mm-hmm.
So now that put me in a, like, where I've always wanted to be. I want to be able to address every issue on the planet, and I can do that under the umbrella of health, because everything affects health.
You got to have the energy to carry out your mission, your purpose as well. So it's
yeah. And then I wrote a book. It's called The Book on Total Sexy Health: The 8 Key Parts Designed by Nature. And it's a book on.
But you don't do anything with marketing, even though. Nothing
Well,
with marketing. Yeah, total sexy.
Well, you know what? And no, that was a deliberate choice, because sexy is the power word. Yeah. Everybody sells everything on the basis of sexy.
Yeah.
I decided why why not use the power word to sell people on their own magnificence?
Sure.
And so the idea is there are 8 parts to this. First one is internal awareness. That's like the foundation of a being. That's where your unconditional perfect peace lives. It's always there. That's the source of your existence, and it's also the source of the existence of the entire universe. Same peace. But our access is to go as deep as we can into our own being, and that's where we connect to it. So awareness, and that never gets sick, never dies. It's beyond everything. It's formless, but it feels amazing. Right? And then out of that, you could say a crystallization out of that is life energy. Life energy, in our case, comes from the sun, goes into green leaves, is stored in the bonds between atoms to make molecules. Those become our food. We eat them, break them down. The energy is released. That's what we live on. And that energy is, so it's solar energy in one sense. That's the objective view, the scientific view. But if you bring your awareness into that energy and you become that energy, that's what the masters talked about, being the light. See, seeing the light or being the light. Seeing the light is the science, but nobody got enlightened by the light they saw, that they studied. But when you come into your own being of that, then that's the master. That is the master in every human being, already there. Life is the master. We always ascribe the master to a guy whose name was Buddha, a guy whose name was Jesus, a guy who's, there's a whole bunch of them, right? In different cultures. But the truth is, what was their mastery is that they hung out in that place and spoke from that place and didn't have to memorize notes. They just peeled it off of that experience that they were in, that they were having, right? That experience is in everybody, except most of us just dabble with it if we do anything. They took it seriously. We dabble in it. So that's the second one. That's also your power. It's also knows everything about your body. It's all power in your body, all knowledge in your body, and all presence in your body. That's called life, right? So that's number 2. Number 3 is inspired creativity, which is the shine of that energy into the world. That's the positive part of mind. Then there's the body, food and fitness, digestion, detox, sleep, rest, healing. Pretty much that's what most people talk about when they talk about health. Then number 5 is, I call it survival smarts. That's the protective part of mind. And that's about procreation and protection. Surviving in, safety, surviving in, between the body and the rest of the creatures. That's all within human nature. And that's based on calmness under fire. The calmness comes from being present in your own space, and the skills you learn because you can anticipate what kinds of crises will come up, to some extent at least, to quite a lot, let's say to quite a bit more of an extent than we usually do, because we don't train ourselves to be skilled in the kinds of like fires and floods and, all like we don't train ourselves in that too well. We farm that out to experts. you know, and then something happens when the doo-doo hits the fan, say, "Mommy, mommy," you know, one form of mommy or another, right? Save me, right? And then there's social group, because that affects your health. Who you hang out with affects your health. Then there's natural environment. So we're talking planet, nature, solar system. Mm-hmm. And then there's the big picture, which is here we are in a small temporary body. The body is a terminal condition. In a small terminal body, in an infinite universe, and to be okay. And then the goal is to be fully present in all of that at the same time. Fully present in all of my being and my surroundings, and not lost in thoughts and trips and hallucinations and delusions in my head. And when you can be that present in all of your being and your surroundings, your life starts to, everything in your life begins to work. Mm-hmm. Because you're there for it. You know, it's hard to make it work if you're not there, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, for instance, I think the one on relationships is really cool. I see a woman and I just see the goddess in her. I just see, oh my God. And I just got to be with her, right? She sees the same thing in me. The problem is, if we haven't done our homework, she doesn't see it in herself. And I don't see it in myself.
Right.
And so I think my love is going to come from her, and she thinks her love is going to come from me. But I can't get in touch with it to bring it out, and she can't get in touch with it to bring it out. Where's the love in the relationship supposed to come from if neither of the people can find it in themselves? Yeah. Right? And then I get an expectation. I think she should make me feel better. Yeah. And she says, you should make me feel better. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And so I say to people, don't be in a relationship until you've done your homework, because there's got to be somebody present for her to react off of. And there's got to be something present in her for you to react off.
Jen and I had that built right into our vows. Some people thought it was different. And I said right in my vows, my job is not to make you happy. My job is to be happy. And it goes on like that, what I was taking responsibility for. And
yeah. Oh, cool.
But it wasn't as mushy as most people were used to.
Yeah, it was. It's not. Oh, I see. Yeah, it wasn't mushy romantic.
It wasn't as mushy about trying to look after her and her happiness and all of that.
Right.
And it's radical responsibility for my own and how that will influence her and give her permission to do the same.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it makes sense. You know, when I'm okay, she's okay.
Exactly.
Because I'm seeing okay, right?
Yeah.
And our state of being defines our perception and defines our actions and defines, creates the world we build.
Yeah. You have to know it. I was going to say, you just have to know it inside yourself before you can actually see it out there to recognize it.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. I mean, literally, I could be sitting here and feeling the peace that I talk about and look around and say, oh my God, peace has always been everywhere. There has never, ever been a time when peace has not been everywhere. And somebody, I can almost hear him say, yeah, what about a war? Yeah, you know what? There's peace on the battlefield. There's peace inside the warriors. There's peace around the warriors. There's peace between the warriors. There's peace above and below the warriors. That whole battlefield is filled with peace. But that's not what their focus is. Their focus is, you're my enemy, I'm going to kill you. And the other goes, no, you're my enemy, and I'm going to kill you, right? And so they play that game on a platform of perfect peace. And if they were focused on that peace, they would probably put down their stupid tools that they use, and they'd share lunch, talk about the kids, figure out ways that they could help each other. Just because their focus had shifted from you're my enemy to peace is everywhere. Now, if I was sitting in the same place and I was angry, I'd be looking for enemies. And I would find them too, because if I couldn't find them, I'd create them, right? And so how would I act into that world? Would be an expression of my anger and my need for an enemy. Whereas if I was in peace, I would be expressing myself from a place of peace.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be trying to fix everything. I wouldn't try to be pushing and pulling everything. Maybe I would just be enjoying how incredible it is.
Be the change.
So yeah, and you completely different world. So I could be the third guy who's afraid.
Yeah.
And if I'm afraid in the same world where the other me, the other state of being sees, oh my God, pieces everywhere, I would be finding danger. I'd be looking for danger. I'd be creating danger. I would be responding to danger, and I would build a world that is focused on danger.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Same world, just a different state of being or a different state of emotion.
Lenses, yeah.
And in business.
And when I'm present, when I'm fully present in all of my being, that comes to expression. Cannot but. There's no way to fake it. That's why coming home for purpose is so important, because you can't but, you know. It's like your business, if you're an entrepreneur, is an expression of your state of being. Mm-hmm. So all your strengths show up in it. So do all your weaknesses, right? And how do you become a person who doesn't have any weaknesses? Is you got to be coming home, living in your strength, and bringing that to expression. And whatever's weak in you is just unexamined stuff. You know, Carl Jung had this saying that I really like. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, or I would say, until you become fully conscious in your being. So until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so his whole deal is make it conscious, you know, shine light into the darkness. You know, look at the things that are not working for you, but shine light into them. You know, and maybe you can dissolve some of the darkness into the light that you shine into it. Yeah. Right. And in the end, you find out, well, what is your darkness based on? Somebody's stupid idea. Somebody had a bad day and laid some trip on you about what was wrong with you, and you were 2 years old and you went, and then you repeat it to yourself over and over and over and over again, and there's your darkness. Yeah. Right. So
before we finish up, we had one question saying that you've had massive impact and you have a huge purpose. What obstacles have you had, and how did you overcome them along the way? So something like affecting 5 million people is pretty huge. You must have had some hiccups along the way.
No, you know what? This is the obstacle.
Honestly, the obstacle is the way.
Honestly, it's true. There is no other obstacles.
So do you have a tangible example of something that came up, and maybe briefly you misunderstood it, that it was something else, like a machinery or a supplier or marketing or something was against you, and then it started
very little obstacles. You know, even the first business I did, I got screwed in the business.
Yeah, well, you basically invented flax oil and got kicked out of it, right?
Yeah. It turned into $1 billion a year industry at wholesale price. Mm-hmm. I made $8,635. Yeah. Now, we had a guy. One of the guys I was working with was a really good manager, and one of the things he said to me is, "Well, what do you want out of this deal?" And I said, "I don't know." Because I grew up really poor, and my life has never been about money.
Right.
I feel rich inside. Rich is, first of all, is an experience, mm-hmm. you know, and you can be sitting on a huge pile of money, and feel poor. Mm-hmm. There was a guy in Germany.
Wealth is not money.
There was a guy in Germany, had $9 billion, and he lost 500 million. So it's like less than 6% of his net worth, and he was so upset he jumped in front of a train and killed himself. You know, it's like he had $1 and he lost 5 cents and he killed himself, right? So you know, so he had $9 billion. Well, if $9 billion is not enough to make you happy, I'm sure 10 won't either. right? And it doesn't matter how many more zeros you add, because you're talking about a deficit here,
right?
Because rich begins with a feeling, right? And then it builds out. So now
so you do things differently though when you the machines that helped maximize the benefits from flax oil and all that, and turned into $1 billion industry, and then Udo's oil came after that.
Yeah.
Was there something that you learned from that you applied to make sure?
Sure. And I guess that I had a point after I got screwed. I was near suicidal. And I had a friend, and I said to him, I've poured my whole life into this for like 10 years, and they just took it from me.
Right.
And the guy said to me, that was just an idea. And I was really pissed. What are you talking about? I've dedicated my whole life to this thing. And then I thought about it. And about a week later, I said, you know what? It really was just an idea. Right? It was, for me, in my head, was what upset me was an idea.
Right.
I wasn't, I wasn't bleeding, right? I wasn't starving.
Right.
My breath was coming in and out just like it always does. And I had a whole trip in my head about shoulda, coulda, woulda, even though I said to the guy, I don't know what I want. And he said to me, if you don't know what you want, I can't get it for you. And I said, well, that makes sense, but I don't know what I want. And actually my idea wasn't, oh my God, I'm going to make so much money. Money was never in that issue. I can do it. I can get it done. I can pull it off. That was my interest at the time. And I did. So I was 100% successful.
Right.
It just was not a money goal at all.
Sure.
So what I've learned from that, being a little bit more careful with how I pick people,
right,
work with, and putting some of those things a little bit into place, but I'm still not really about money.
Sure.
So but I was the obstacle. It's always me is the obstacle, because I could have had a different, because I could have said, because now I look at it and I say, how cool is this? Some people took and ran with it. They were better at getting it done than I was. And I had a lot of help because it didn't have to all be about me. Right? Flax oil has done a lot of good in the world.
Right.
And when I die, that will still be true. And with whether I have money in the bank or don't have money in the bank, it still is an unbelievably cool accomplishment.
You've still got a piece of that $1 billion industry of being a part of it. And I guess there's probably a brief scarcity that when you said it was the idea, that you didn't have more ideas, and obviously you did.
Oh, I have tons of ideas.
Entrepreneurs is trying to narrow them down and actually act on them.
And the more I get to the place that's full in me, the more ideas I have, the easier they become to carry out. The few obstacles there will be. I think mostly with the obstacles we had at the beginning dissolved in our enthusiasm. I don't know how else to say that. But people might come, sometimes you go to, you hear something about, Tony or Dalai Lama or whatever. You say, oh yeah, he's a guy who wears robes and a shaven head and he's like probably a little weird, right? And so you create a whole thing in your head about it. And then you meet the person, you find out they're completely different. That happened to me with Tony. When I first met him, I knew I'd seen him on TV and I said, oh yeah, he's got big teeth. And he's a motivator, and so somebody invited me to give a talk for him at Platinum Partners, 2002. And I was going in there and saying, yeah, well, Tony's probably got a huge ego because he's got a huge body, and he obviously is pretty prominent. And I walked backstage to meet him before I gave my talk, and I swear he was so focused on me that it was like there was nobody else there. He wasn't there at all. He was that focused, and it totally blew my mind. Totally blew my mind. Made me so comfortable made it so easy, and I just went up and did my rant, and then he used it in life, what's it called?
Mastery.
Life Mastery, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uncut, just a rant. It was a rant. It was my oil rant. Right? So I've seen enough things happen where I realize when I look deeply into it, it's not, the obstacle's not out there. The obstacle's always in me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I can't get a kid to learn, I need to look at how I'm teaching, right? And instead of writing off the kid,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in, you know, if I don't like the way the world is, instead of writing off the world, what do I want it to look like? And then build that, right? Because it's easy to bitch and it's easy to blame,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not a solution. The solution is, what do you want the world to look like? And then take the steps to build the world, live in that world. Even if it's imaginary, live in that world.
Nice.
Right? So in that sense, I know, and when people say, yeah, you know, obstacles, oh, what are your obstacles? Honestly, other than me jumping over my own shadow, there aren't a lot of obstacles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we ran into people, and the enthusiasm was there, and a lot of people came probably to say, oh, here are these weird guys. They came and saw us and they wanted to be part of it.
Yeah.
Right? But that's the power of enthusiasm. When you're on purpose one, right, within yourself, and when you're on purpose two, which is what is going to be your contribution? What's your splash for good that you're going to make?
It's definitely attractive.
Yeah. It's and you know, the human mind cannot resist enthusiasm.
Yeah.
we're addicted to it, you know, whether we know it or not. And when it comes along, it's exciting. It's interesting, and it and it makes us feel better. It's like, right?
Yeah.
But the purpose one is important to give that as much energy as you give the second purpose. In fact, I would say, if you have to make a choice between the two, always pick the first one. You're here with the purpose. You're made out of dust, air, water, and light, you know, and they're all interesting, but not that interesting. But when they're mixed together to become you, what an amazing thing it is to be a human being. And you get this combination. Only for, you know, 4 billion years, you weren't. Now you get maybe 100 years if you're lucky. Then you get 4 billion years and you're not. So this is your holiday. This is the thing. What is there better in this time for you than your existence? And when that's in place, everything else becomes a lot easier.
Fantastic.
So we could talk about that for another 24 hours, but I know you have to.
Yeah. So there's you're a wealth of information. Where the best place for people to go if they want to learn more about you, about your courses, about your products?
Yeah, I've got two websites. One is UDO'S UDO'S choice.com, and that's where I talk about the products and why we made them that way. And you can find out where to get them should you be so inclined. And then the other website is theudo.com, THEUDO, and we have some courses, and we're just start building that. A lot of stuff that I'm going to be doing for the next 20, 30 years, or however long I last, is going to be educational, and so that's it. theudo.com, and I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel, and I mean, it's like, I'm not hard to find.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and inspiring your audience, and this will live on for years as a digital asset for people to consume. So that 5 million might go up a little bit with all of this digital assets you have floating around.
I'm here for 8 billion.
Yeah.
Why, you know, my tribe is 8 billion people.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. All right. Well,
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks again. And we'll log off and do check out Udo's websites. And if you have any questions for me, feel free to message me and I can get them to Udo as well. Or if you want to learn more about high performance living, send me a message and we'll be happy to have a conversation with you.
Cool.
Thanks.